in terms of just like consulate processing. And I know Barbados has just recently started opening up, and we've had dual nationals that got acquired a Grenadian citizenship through investment that are finally able to get consulate interviews there in Barbados after what seems like 2.5 years. What else are you seeing around the world in terms of processing times and what consulates are moving fast?
So as we were talking, I just filed somebody in Melbourne earlier this week who has an interview in about a week and a half, which was shocking to me. That's even faster than 2019. So Melbourne, I can happily report that Melbourne is doing really well. I had the same experience in Perth maybe 11 months ago or so. Australia's kind of come and gone and different things all along the way, but Australia seems to be doing really well. Canada's a very popular place to file. Obviously, lots of Canadian E2s. Canada's doing okay. They're doing okay. There's kind of a way to, you kind of have to finagle a little bit, but you can generally get it. I always tell people about 8 to 12 weeks or so, depending on how aggressive you are with kind of taking cancellations and things. UK, another major hub for E2s, they're about right? They're about where they've always been. So, there are some smaller places, as you mentioned, like Barbados doesn't do the volume that, Toronto or London does, or Sydney or Perth, but coming back online. Same with Amman, Jordan. That was another client that I had waiting and waiting and waiting. They got an interview scheduled after about 6 months. So, at least the wheels are slowly turning. Oddly, it's, the places that don't do a ton of E2s are actually still really slow, which you would think, they don't have that many, like we can speed right through. So these are still a little bit up in the air in some areas, but overall, 90% of the consulates are back to something that sounds reasonable and manageable to most. Yeah.
And so if we're going into 2023, someone that hasn't yet invested in a business, what are some items they need to definitely hit in terms of investment amount, the business plan, the type of business, preparing their petition for 2023? How can they make your job easy and get the E2 visa approved the first time and as easy as possible for everyone involved?
Yeah. So, those are great questions. So we really take a very step-by-step approach with all clients in order to do exactly what you said, be super efficient. The reality is when someone comes to us that's kind of, oh, hey, I'm thinking about getting an E2, there are many, many documents that we need. And we want to let everybody know up front, these are all the documents we're going to need. But let's take a step back and just work on step one. Get step one done, then step two. So we talk every 3 weeks to make sure that they get through every single step in the process and not an overwhelming process. Just work on these 3 documents, get them, then we're going to move on to the next, then the next, then the next. It tends to move much faster that way. So just kind of staying with that kind of program. But as far as things that they're going to need, investments amounts, things like that, I think the old standby still at this point still generally holds true, which is, about 100,000 as a very kind of basic service-based kind of business. And it goes up from there, right? I always give everybody the analogy of if you want to open a Cadillac dealership in the middle of Manhattan, you're going to need a few $1 million. If you want a tax preparation firm in Lincoln, Nebraska, probably 100 will do it. So it really depends a lot on that business. But I would not, for my clients at least, I never recommend spending less than about 100. Kind of interest rates, inflation, different things. So 100 now is not what 100 was even a year ago, right? And so really dipping below that amount, you might be a little bit on thin ice. Again, it really depends. But you have to understand that the person that makes that decision is the person you're standing in front of doing the interview. And you and I and the client, and nobody knows who that person's going to be. And if in their mind, I've just done 4 E2 interviews in a row and they all spent $250 and now here you come with 75, that's where you're at. So keeping all of those things in mind.